Welcome to IPEMS, a podcast series that teaches about pediatric medication safety in the emergency setting. I'm your host, Dr. Tiffany Johnson of the Emergency Medical Services for Children National Resource Center. Joining us today is Dr. Joan Shook. Dr. Shook is a professor and she's also the head of the section of emergency medicine at Baylor College of Medicine. She's also the chief patient safety officer and the medical director of the emergency department at Texas Children's Hospital. Thank you so much for joining us today, Dr. Shook. We're going to be talking today about life-work balance and its impact on patient safety. Dr. Shook, how do you define life-work balance?
Life-work balance is different for every single person, and it's the sort of balance between the different things in your life that make you comfortable and happy.
What components should you consider when you're thinking about having a life-work balance?
Well, I think that it's different at every moment in your life what really comprises work-life balance. For example, when your children are young, then really a large percentage of your time has to be focused on those children. It won't last very long, it's such a precious time, and so that needs to be sort of at the focal point of your life. But in addition to that, you need to be thinking about your job and yourself and your relationship with your significant other, your spouse. You need to put all those things that are important in your life into some kind of sort of system.
Medical training can be a very challenging time. Do you have any advice for trainees who are working towards achieving life-work balance?
Well, I think there's several things that young people can do that'll make it easier for them. First of all, to think in advance. What is it that's important to me, and really where do I want to go? What is important in my life? It's important to remember that there are many dimensions to every life. Work is certainly a part of it. Family's important, community's important, and then I like to think of the component called legacy. Who do you want to be remembered as? Who do you want people to think of you as? And so if you kind of put those four dimensions on a grid and then think about what does a 1-year picture look like? What's a 5-year picture look like? What does the 20-year picture look like? And then keep in mind that all of those pictures can change a little bit, but just the fact that you've kind of thought it through and are beginning to address it, I think ultimately makes you a more informed person and more likely to be able to achieve some balance in your life.
What are some of the consequences for having poor life-work balance?
I think frequently what happens is that people get focused too much in one direction and then the rest of their life may decay. For example, if you're really, really focused on your work for over a long period of time, your significant relationships may deteriorate, or the other things that make you happy may disappear. If that's sports, if that's singing, if that's whatever, it could disappear and then you won't be as happy. So you kind of need to keep your eye on all of that, acknowledging, however, that life is stages, that what's really good for you right now may not be good for you in a year, and you can always pick up the pieces that you sort of allowed to languish as long as you're cognizant that those pieces are there and need to be picked up.
In this podcast series, we're focused on medication safety in the emergency setting. Are there any consequences for having poor life-work balance and their implications for patient safety?
Well, there are huge implications. If you are overworking yourself in any one dimension of your life and you arrive in the emergency department to work and you're exhausted mentally, you're exhausted physically, you're exhausted emotionally, then you can't possibly focus on the work that you have at hand and the tasks that you have to perform, including medication safety related events.
Is there any evidence in the literature that shows that medical trainees who may be overworked and fatigued commit more medication errors?
Well, there's absolutely evidence in the literature that trainees who are overworked or overtaxed are inclined to get depressed, and once somebody's depressed, that starts a vicious cycle. It also happens that once you're depressed, if you're already in a bad part of your life, you may not seek help for that depression, and the depression can deepen before you kind of rescue yourself or have somebody rescue you out of that difficult cycle.
In training, there's a lot of focus on duty hours, but can you offer any other advice for trainees if they feel that they may be overworked, stressed, or fatigued?
Well, duty hours, I think, is just one dimension of what must be addressed. Duty hours just tells you to go home. It doesn't tell you what to do when you get home. It's important that you are focusing on that time away and how that time sort of contributes to your balance. What's meaningful to you? How do you end up sort of recharging your battery? Part of it, of course, is sleeping, but there's probably much more to that. You have an opportunity with duty hour restrictions to sort of explore wellness, explore physical activity, explore other dimensions of your life that'll ultimately keep you better focused over the long run.
Do you have any final words that you would like to offer the trainees who are listening to this podcast series?
I'll just reiterate one thing, and that is it's important for young people to remember that life is stages. Very frequently I see people who really feel like they have to tackle everything all at once and excel in every single dimension. That's not practical, it's not reasonable, and it's not realistic. As long as you've kind of figured out what your plan looks like and you understand where you want to go, it's okay to phase things in over periods of time. Nobody's expecting anything else from you. But you're the one who has to take that bull by the horns, because most of people in leadership positions are going to say, oh, you want to work harder? Great. You want to do that? Great. You're the one who has to kind of set some dimensions around what your work life is and then again what your home life is.
I think that's an excellent point, Dr. Shook. And sometimes trainees may feel uncomfortable saying no, especially to someone who's in a position of authority. Do you have any advice for them when they're really trying to set those boundaries and set limits and to be able to say no?
It is difficult, I think, when you're in a trainee situation to set limits, but it's all in how you discuss it. So rather than saying, I'm not doing it, it's not interesting, you can say, I really feel like I'm at my limit. Is there a way we can pursue this later? Let me tell you what's important to me, and let's talk about how we can put these other things into the equation. I don't think leaders are necessarily going to view that negatively, but it is in the messaging. And if a junior person just says, I'm not doing it, that doesn't come across as well as, let's talk together about how we can make this work for the whole system.
Thank you so much, Dr. Shook, for joining us today and helping to share with trainees what life-work balance is and offering some strategies for achieving life-work balance. And thank you to our audience for listening to this episode of IPEMS. To learn more about patient safety in the emergency medical setting, please tune in to other episodes in the IPEMS series.